Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a team that I had amazing results with on the first day of the Fossil Cup. The team features Spark Lantern lead, Force Palm Lucario safe switch, and as the closer, a Scavalier with Drill Run and Aerial Ace. I believe I went 13-2 across the first 3 sets with the team, and one of those losses did have a nasty frame drop that unfortunately did contribute to the loss. This team, I think, is a great climbing team. The biggest weakness this team has is if you run into a ground type, like let's say a Gastrodon on the lead, that would be really difficult to overcome, but outside of that, the team performs amazingly well. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. Neutral lead in the first match, Lantern versus Registeel, 2 better responses in the back, so I safe switch into Lucario, and that is going to be met with a Poliwrath. Part of the reason why Lucario is on the safe switch here is to check for any Pokemon that a Scavalier might not want to see. In this case, we bait out a Poliwrath, they no-shield the Thunder Punch, and then no-shield the Thunder Punch means that I can just take Switch Advantage. Switch Advantage will be nice, as that means that I'm going to be able to put my Scavalier on their Registeel, but my opponent is actually running an ABA double Steel line. Registeel lead, a Scavalier in the back, and this honestly could be a bit tricky. I bring in my Lantern. Lantern should barely be able to tank the Drill Run here. I do run a pretty decent rank Lantern, so the Drill Run just does not KO, and that move not KOing right there can potentially help me win this game, because I'm able to force the final shield. I realize in the moment that a Zap Cannon is going to do more than a Drill Run, so I should never shield this Drill Run. I should just save the shield. I'm going to look to farm up, and here's where Aerial Ace is really nice. Aerial Ace you get to faster than Drill Run, so people expect you to throw on 7, where you can get to the move on 6. And now in comes the Registeel. I'm going to be able to make it to the Drill Run. Drill Run will hit for super effective damage onto the Registeel. I need this to be enough to KO. It's not. In comes the Lantern. Lantern on 1 HP takes the Spark down. Really tough matchup, but we're able to take the win. Much better lead in the next match. Lantern into Jellicent. Opponent safe switches into Ferrothorn, and they're going to get shredded by a Scavalier. I can tank whatever they throw. They're actually a Mirror Shot Ferrothorn, and unfortunately for me, they do get the attack drop. I think Mirror Shot, I do prefer Mirror Shot on Open Gradely Ferrothorn, as they actually get another attack drop there. But in this cup, I think Mirror Shot doesn't do anything for you, and Ferrothorn is a lot better off with Thunder. But the nice thing for me is since they're running the moveset that I don't think is very good, they're completely walled here. So Mirror Shot or Power Whip, neither one is going to do a lot of damage. The unfortunate thing is that since I'm double debuffed, this Drill Run is going to do nothing into the Jellicent. Jellicent's going to be able to absorb that damage very comfortably, whereas typically Drill Run actually does a lot here to Jellicent. So they're going to be able to tank the moves and farm down, but the good news for me is even if I'm double debuffed, I'm still able to get them below half HP. They throw instantly, giving me a free Spark, which is quite nice. And Jellicent, if we see 1 Steel type, I was expecting a 2nd Steel type, but hey, I will absolutely take Ludicolo. Another thing I really like about this team, it's very good at breaking a lot of the very boring, fast move, pressure heavy teams with stuff like Razor Leaf. Here my opponent tries to go for the CMP tie, but I am going to try and aim to throw in good timing there, so I end up getting the Force Palm through. It's a simultaneous KO. In comes their Jellicent, and I'm just in a winning position here. My opponent is going to give me another free Spark, which is quite nice. They're on Bubble Beam. Oh my goodness. Bubble Beam. Now I'm going to be debuffed, so I actually don't think I can Spark down now. But the good news is I'm still going to be able to make it to the Surf, and I still make a point to throw it on good timing. Surf is going to KO the Jellicent. Things got a little scary at the end with that Bubble Beam, but we're still able to take the win. Good lead in the next match, leading the Lantern into Poliwrath. Poliwrath staying in this matchup. They typically run Dynamic Punch in this meta. I end up baiting with the Surf. They catch, and they're actually ABA Water. They catch the Surf onto Lantern. That's not great for me, but the good news is that Surf landing actually does mean that I can counter it into Drill Run range far easier. They will go for the Surf, and I'm just going to look to farm up a 6 counters because the Scavalier will always win charge attack priority. I decided to actually go for 5. I don't really want to risk CMP and have them shielding. Instead, I just want them to let it through because I should have an Aerial Ace loaded for that Poliwrath. Opponent sends in their final Pokemon, which is Skarmory. Oh my goodness, how weak to Lantern can one person be? Honestly, that play does make sense because they can absorb that energy, no problem. But I just bring in the Lantern. I never have to shield. Brave Bird does add up, but I just don't have to shield this, and I'm just going to be going straight Surf versus the Poliwrath. Poliwrath will fire off its energy. They're probably just Icy Winding, so I will shield. Actually, a very rare Scald Poliwrath. Almost all of the Poliwraths you're going to see in this cup are on Dynamic Punch, specifically because Dynamic Punch helps with stuff like Ferrothorn and, of course, the ever-present Lantern. They're firing off more energy. I think I can just let this go and just go for a full Force Palm farm down. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Unfortunately, the frame drops are back with a vengeance with this update. I don't know what happened, but the frame drops are just atrocious currently. I do get debuffed, but the good news is it's not going to matter. Lucario has a massive attack stat. Thunder Punch is super effective. They try and tank it and make the move, but I just get the Force Palm farm down and I'm able to take the win. We've got a terrible lead in the next match. Lantern into Kartana. The Razor Leafer, I have to keep away from the Lantern. Safe switch into Lucario. We get a Force Palm onto that Kartana, and that does like 25% of its health. And now, my Lucario will be met and countered down by the Poliwrath. But the nice thing here is I'm able to get it to about half HP. I lure it out, and I'm able to grab a shield with that Thunder Punch. So now I have a shield advantage for Escavalier in the back. Opponent is going to be connecting with Dynamic Punch. That's going to do heavy damage. The frame drop back again. Oh my goodness. They had an update where it was fixed, and I don't know what happened to that update, but clearly it's not here anymore because the frame drops are back with a vengeance on Android. Dynamic Punch is going to KO. There's no point in shielding. I just have to 2-shield my Escavalier. We'll have to see what they have in the back. They're not going to bring in the Kartana here. Opponent is going to bring in their own Escavalier, and this game is very, very winnable for me. With the one exception, if they have Acid Spray, I instantly lose. Here, I'm going to go for the Aerial Ace bait. Opponent will commit the shield, because honestly, they're low enough that I can probably inflict some nice damage. They try for the Aerial Ace catch, but I get a full counter farm down with the Escavalier. So we had a terrible lead. We lost lead, we lost swap, but it does not matter, and we end up 2 shield flexing on our opponent. Another game, another Razor Leaf lead. I'm going to safe switch into Lucario. Opponent actually stays to throw some Razor Leafs before they bring in Escavalier. So they intentionally stay to get an energy lead on that Ludicolo. This does mean that I make a Shadow Ball and force a shield from the Escavalier, so our switch clocks are slightly misaligned. However, that mid game was so fast that unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to switch out yet. And if my opponent realizes it after I'm able to knock out the Escav, they can just bring in the Ludicolo and farm me down, and that would be really, really bad for me. Here, they can just bring it in and farm me down, but they wait a little bit because they had waited at the start, and this gives me my opportunity to save the Lantern. They're forced to stay in here. Their switch clock finally comes up, and it's Mantine in the back. So I have been fully hard countered. A Razor Leafer into Lantern, a counter user versus the Lucario, and a Flyer versus a Escavalier. But I have an energy lead, a shield advantage, and a tiny difference in the switch clocks. And with those advantages, I can win this game. Aerial Ace is going to be shielded up by the Mantine. I'm going to be expending my final shield as well. They are going to be 5 off their next move, so I'm going to try and go for the catch into the Lantern. They can't farm me down. They're switch locked, so they're forced to throw a move. And that guarantees me a win, because they can bring in the Ludicolo. I can fire off the Aerial Ace. They should be 4 off, so I should be able to do 4 counters and the Aerial Ace. I only end up throwing 3, because I was pretty sure Aerial Ace would KO here. But even though we lost lead, we lost swap, and we were countered in the end game, triple hard countered, we still get the win. This team is incredibly good. We've got a much better lead in the next match, Lantern versus Shadow Poliwrath. Opponent safe switches into Berserker, and I'm going to respond with Lucario. I also thought about sending in a Escavalier, but my thought process here is Lucario is very, very frail. So ideally, I want to put it in a position where it can get energy while not taking a lot of fast move pressure, because I think I can make double Thunder Punch versus the Poliwrath. But as soon as I see a counter land, I realize I've made a mistake. I can't actually get double Thunder Punch here. The counters just do way too much damage. They're going to be able to Dynamic Punch my Lantern, but I should still be in an okay position. So they're going to fire off the Dynamic Punch. I'm going to look to farm up here. There's a frame drop. They switch into the Lantern. Visually, I see 2 sparks go through. So I believe they're now at 2. I'm going to switch into the Escavalier. As long as I don't take a Thunderbolt, I should be okay. So they're going to throw, by my count, after 10 sparks. So I am going to commit the shield. It's the Surf, so they should be 4 off of the Bolt. I continue to farm, aiming to cap tie them. They throw 1 before the Bolt, but as it turns out, they actually had 3 sparks there, not 2. If I didn't frame drop, I would have known their energy, and I could have cap tied them. But unfortunately, game state continues to be an issue, and that's one of the only losses that I had with the team. We move to the next game with the best possible lead we could see, Lantern into Pelipper. The ready shield save switch, I'm going to answer with Lucario. Lucario has to go down a shield. I don't win the zeros, but I can get the shields right back with Thunder Punch. So to me, it's a far better Pokemon to send in rather than the Escavalier. I'm at double Thunder Punch. I'm expecting they're going to shield once and then let this go and then bring in Pelipper and then just Weather Ball to KO me. But they double shield, and to me, that's a pretty large misplay on their part. Them double shielding puts them in a really difficult spot because I'm exiting this matchup with energy. They bring in the Pelipper. They end up making a nice catch onto a Quagsire. This team is pretty weak to Quagsire, but as long as shields are up, the Escavalier can do pretty well there. And, as long as shields are up, the Lucario could do pretty well there. And Escavalier plays it very neutrally. They're on Mud Bomb, so I'm going to be able to make it to the Drill Run and just go for the CMP tie. Drill Run, I don't think quite KOs. It actually leaves them at 1 HP. But that's honestly even better because I could just Spark down with the Lantern. And my opponent should be top lefting in 3, 2, there we go. GG. All right. I've got a negative lead in the next match, Lantern versus Shadow Alolan Sandslash. I'm going to get a little bit of energy and then dip, so I throw a Spark, save switch to Lucario, a Fourth Palm connects, out comes the Poliwrath. Granted, this is a rare non-Poliwrath team that I'm running, but basically every opponent that you're going to see will have Poliwrath, so if you don't see it on the lead, it's going to be in the back, so being able to have something that can bait it out and force a shield is really quite nice, and then Lantern is very comfortably able to absorb Dynamic Punch, so they'll go for a Dynamic. If they get a second, it will actually be able to KO, so I'm just going to go for the Surf. It may not KO, I think it does, but even if it doesn't, it just still gets it very low. It actually doesn't, but I get the Spark down. Are they going to bring in the Sandslash? No, they bring in Lantern as their final Pokemon, and this is exactly where I need a Escavalier to be, as a Escavalier can do very well against this Lantern plus A/Slash Core. I shield up the first move. My opponent is probably going to try and grab the shield and then just send in their Sandslash. Sandslash does have some residual energy. They're going to send in Sandslash just to force my energy. I will fire off the Drill Run. Drill Run, they're going to no shield, and they're going to try and win the game with Lantern. I farm up. Here, I could have gone for double Aerial Ace because my opponent now has to move. I'm very close to the back-to-back Drill Runs, but I do not have it, and they're going to be able to pick up the knockout with the Surf. This will come down to the wire. I have energy on my Lantern. It's going to be a race. There's a frame drop, but I get to the Thunderbolt again. Again, this team fighting through hard counters, fighting through these frame drops. Niantic, please fix your game, man. But we're still able to get that win. We've got a mirror lead, Lantern versus Lantern in the next match, and this works out great for me. I'm very happy to see Lantern in the lead. A lot of the time, Lantern lead teams are going to have stuff that Escavalier can do quite well against in the back. So they will fire off their energy. I'm very happy tanking a Thunderbolt here. That's not something that I am too worried about. And I'm just going to keep farming. Here, I wasn't quite sure what my opponent was doing. I don't know if they were lagging or if they stopped tapping for a little bit. They end up shielding. And I'm just very happy just to let this go. It looks like they might be having a little bit of connection issues, which is a little unfortunate. But regardless, they should only get to one move here, so I can just shield and farm down. They pivot into a Escavalier, and I'm going to respond with my own. I've done enough damage that I can look to overfarm and just knock out with an Aerial Ace, which is a little bit more energy efficient. And if they bring in the Lantern, even if they had their full energy, I should still just be able to one shield and farm down. And Escavalier energy should serve me pretty well in this endgame, because more often than not, Lantern leads do not have flyers in the back. It's often covering for stuff that flyers beat. So I will commit the shield as they go for the Surf, commit to the farm down, get the farm down. I have so much energy. And in the back, what do you know? It's Poliwrath. We hadn't seen our regularly scheduled Poliwrath quite yet. The Aerial Ace lands. Here, I'm going to switch into Lucario. What I should have done was probably just double Aerial Ace and then switch, but I was worried about a lose con if they had Power Up Punch. They're forced to throw because I would live the counter and they wouldn't live the Force Palm, so the Icy Wind to pick up the KO. But I have the Aerial Ace loaded, so I'm going to be able to take the win. Overall, Escavalier energy just very, very strong in this cup. Like, even the game where it was up against the Mantine, we were still able to get that win. All right, we move into the final match. Terrible lead. Lantern into Ferrothorn. I'm going to throw one Spark, safe switch into Lucario. And what do you know? I am just shocked at what's on my screen here. There's no way a Poliwrath was brought into by Lucario. As you can tell, it's a very, very limited meta. Like, there is not a lot of variety. I'm going to try and bring some interesting teams. that have variety. So definitely teams that do not have Poliwrath on them, but man, Poliwrath is absolutely everywhere. Dynamic Punch will land. This is a non-shadow Poliwrath, which means that I can actually live 2 Dynamic Punches, although after the counters, I may not be so lucky. The Surf will KO. I'm looking to switch out. I have a decent amount of energy there, and now I bring in a Scavalier. They throw energy, which it works out great for me. They bait with the Power Whip in the back. It is Quaquaval, and I have no idea what the counts on this Pokemon are. I will fire off the Aerial Ace. It will hit for super effective damage. I'm continuing to farm. I overfarm by 1, and I play to a CMP tie that I do not win. The Scavalier has a very high attack stat, so Quaquaval's attack must be absolutely insane. Even if they can outpace and KO me with a Thunder, I should be able to do enough counter damage that I can just Thunderbolt them. And here my opponent unfortunately gets 1 turn bring in. So what should have been them outpacing by a turn ends up being a CMP tie. Looking it up after the fact, I should have been able to make it to a Thunderbolt, and the Thunderbolt plus the Sparks would have been able to knock out the Ferrothorn after those counters landed. So again, I kept it in mainly just to show that game state was rough on both sides today. Overall, I think this team is amazing. I think this team is a really good team if you're looking to climb. I did mention that I would also discuss about strategies for beating this team. This team really does not appreciate ground in general. Like a Scavalier at least takes neutral from it, but something like a Gastrodon or a Quagsire lead would be very, very uncomfortable for it. So if you see a lot of people trying the team, might be worth trying to build a team around those. Although I think the ground types in general, you'd probably have to run like Ground Double Flyer, because basically every ground type in this format is really, really weak to Poliwrath, just because Poliwrath is the neutral king of this meta. So even though it is a team that is ABA weak to ground, the grounds aren't super common as of yet, at least at the time of recording this, because every single team I'm pretty sure I saw, and if not every, then maybe all -1, had a Poliwrath on the squad. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.